Ciao, Scuderia. Forza Ferrari.
Hi, Mr. Braun.
Now, as you all know, our new Ferrari F2002 is ready for action.
Ah,
It's got a new chassis, new aero.
new livery?
What? Don't be ridiculous, we're Ferrari! Our brand new car will look exactly the same as the last one.
Yeah, okay.
So as I was saying, our new car will be almost a second a lap quicker than the old one.
Boss, you know how we have already won one of the two races we've competed in this year with the older car and finished on the podium twice, and our lead driver is leading the championship ahead of the Williamses and McLarens.
Yes, get to the point.
There is no point.
Well, why did you say anything then?
Exposition.
Okay, back to the F2002. We do have one little problem. We only have one ready for this weekend. And of course, we have to take 3 cars to the track. 2 race cars and 1 spare. So the question here is, which driver should we give the faster, newer and shinier car to?
Boys, I think we should give the car to Michael.
Ferrari W.
Excellent idea. Well proposed. Anyone else?
I disagree, boss. I think we should give the car to Shumi. He's way faster.
Boss, what about Rubens?
Who?
Rubens Barrichello, you know, your other driver who actually outqualified Michael in Australia and then led in Malaysia before his engine blew up.
I have never heard of this man in my entire life. Oh, I know. Let's give the new car to Michael Schumacher.
Up the boys! Ferrari! Let's go!
The 2002 Formula 1 season was off to a chaotic start. Ralf Schumacher had flown over the top of Rubens Barrichello in Melbourne, Michael Schumacher had collided with Juan Pablo Montoya in Sepang, and Nick Heidfeld had managed to knock a door off the medical car during the Brazilian Grand Prix morning warm-up session. Luckily, no one was hurt in any of these cases. For the Brazilian Grand Prix proper, Montoya managed to set the fastest time in qualifying and started on pole position, beating Michael Schumacher, who would line up second. Following them, it was Ralf Schumacher third and David Coulthard fourth, and Rubens Barrichello only managed 8th in the outdated Ferrari F2001. When the race started, Montoya cut across to try to block Michael, but the Ferrari driver got the inside for the short run to turn 1 and locked up and was very lucky not to take both cars off, and he just about found room to navigate the corner. Behind them, the rest of the field was clean and Michael emerged in front. Suddenly there was drama as Montoya and Schumacher came together for the second race in a row. The front wing went flying. It was a horrible reversal of fortune for Montoya, who had been taken out of the lead in the previous year's Grand Prix by being run into at that very section of track. This time though, I have to say I think it was Montoya's fault, as this rear-facing camera from Schumacher's car shows that Michael was committed to the defensive move from quite early on, and Montoya just misjudged it. Michael got away without any damage, and he led from Ralph, Trilly, Button and Coulthard. To add insult to injury, Montoya picked up a Union Jack streamer or something on the way back to the pits. Raw Britannia, I guess. In the early stages, Rubens Barrichello was on the move, avoiding the debris from the collision and then passing Coulthard for 5th place. Here he is passing Button for 4th place a lap later in front of his home crowd. Look at this now, he's up to 3rd already and challenging Ralf Schumacher for 2nd. And it's Ferrari's 1st and 2nd already. Rubens was on a light fuel load for sure, but still, that's quite a charge. The first retirement from the race was Giancarlo Fisichella, whose engine failed after just 6 laps. Giancarlo had been forced to pit at the end of the first lap after hitting Montoya's front wing, and it's likely that either the pit stop caused his car to overheat, or maybe the debris damaged his air intakes, but whatever the cause, that car was going no further. Keep your head up though, Giancarlo. I have a feeling you'll have better luck at this track next year. Smokescreen deployed. All of a sudden, Barrichello had caught up to Schumacher in the lead, and the heavily fueled Michael led him through so as not to impede his progress. Could it be that after all this time, the fantastic Rubens Barrichello was finally going to get a chance to win his home Grand Prix in front of several thousand adoring... Never mind, his car's broken down too. Womp womp. Believe it or not, guys, but this was the 8th time in a row that Barrichello had retired from his home Grand Prix, and his 3rd DNF in a row in 2002. He had every right to be devastated, and I'm sure that he was. Whether he would have gone on to win this race or not without this retirement, we'll never know, I suppose. It would still have been difficult to build out enough of a gap to jump the drivers on different strategies, but he genuinely had a chance, and for that, this retirement really sucked.
I don't know what the Brazilian for what he's feeling is now, but I wouldn't want a translation.
In other news, Brazilian is now a language. In case you're struggling to keep up, at this point it's Schumacher leading from Schumacher, Trulli, Coulthard and Button, but here's a move that might shake things up. Ooh, big twitch from Coulthard, but he stays behind Trulli. Meanwhile, Raikkonen was having a bit more luck with Button and got up to 5th place. In terms of retirements, both Arrow's cars of Benaldi and Frentzen had disappeared from the order by this point, and that's Olivier Panis retiring with a gearbox issue. Eventually, after building out an 8.5 second lead, Michael Schumacher came in for his first pit stop. It all went smoothly, although he was there for quite a long time, as the team seemed to fill up the car to the end of the race, as opposed to the 2-stop strategy that most people expected. It may not have been a straightforward start to the race, but Michael was just getting on with it and running as straightforward a race as he could, as he was so used to doing in this era. On the other hand, Alan McNish was not having a straightforward race by any means. Just like Fisichella, he'd been forced to pit after hitting debris on the first lap, and just like Fisichella, he went on to retire from the race, although this appeared to be a driver error leading to a complete stall. Further back, 2 promising young rookies were fighting, but that's no way to race. Webber and Massa collided, sending the Sauber out of the Grand Prix. 3 Brazilians had started this race, but Barrichello, Benaldi and Massa were all DNFs. Now, here's something interesting. Ralf Schumacher was given a much smaller splash of fuel than his brother, and at this stage started catching him quite noticeably. He knew he had to get past him to take full advantage of the strategy, but remember, even though these two were brothers, they worked for different teams and they knew it. Michael's under pressure, look, watch as he locks the front left into turn 1. But what of the fight for 3rd, you say? Well, even though Coulthard couldn't pass Trulli on track, both he and Raikkonen managed to emerge ahead of the Renault driver after the pit window. I'm glad there was a race for 3rd between McLaren and Renault, to be honest, because without Barrichello's retirement and Montoya's collision, it probably would have been Ferraris and Williamses locking out the front 4 positions. But with time running out in the race, the main fight was now for the lead. Jarno Trulli wasn't in it though. That's a lot of smoke, and I don't think it's mild 7. Look at the gap between the Schumachers and the rest of the field. 56 seconds! My goodness, the race organisers might as well have made a Schumacher class for this one. Just 7 laps to go and they're right together. Also look at Montoya back up to 6th place. Not bad, that's a point. That point became 2 points with 3 laps to go due to this huge off for Kimi Raikkonen. The McLaren driver flew through the gravel trap, smashing up his rear suspension and taking himself out of 4th place. This elevated Mika Salo up to 6th place, who was doing an awesome job for the new Toyota team and heading for a point. I would like to point out that this off was not Kimi's fault, as you can see in slow motion that something came out of the wheel and caused the car to become uncontrollable, and no gloves or steering wheel could stop that car from heading into the gravel at that point. The race up front was tense between the Schumachers, with Ralf clearly quicker but not able to find a way past Michael. He had followed his older brother around for lap after lap, just waiting for an opportunity, but that opportunity would never come. Here you see them climbing the hill for the last time, watching for their teams, watching for the checkered flag, and... the checkered flag didn't come? One more lap maybe? No, there's the checkered flag, waving for cars that were further back in the order. Interesting. It turns out that guest flag bearer and footballing icon Pele had missed the Schumachers coming through, and by the time he realised his mistake, it was too late. Interestingly, there was an interpretation of the rules at the time, which said that whoever saw the checkered flag first was the winner, which would technically have made Takuma Sato the winner of the Grand Prix, but thankfully common sense prevailed and the order remained as Michael Schumacher first, Ralf Schumacher second, then David Coulthard, Jenson Button, Juan Pablo Montoya and Mika Salo picking up the remaining points. Guys, before I give this race a score, I want to let you know that I have a Daily Motion account for all the races that get taken down from my YouTube channel by the pesky FOM bots. Due to the high levels of parody, review and education my videos contain, as well as the short lengths of the clips I use, I believe that all of my videos fall under fair use, but sadly this isn't always enough. On my Daily Motion account, you can find the 1996 Monaco and Portuguese Grand Prix, as well as any other video that may end up being taken down from my YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Thank you. I gave the Grand Prix a 7.3 out of 10 overall due to its individual fights such as Ferrari versus Williams and McLaren versus Renault. Unfortunately, we didn't see much of Montoya's charge back up the field, and I really do feel that this was one race let down by its TV direction. If the championship implications seem abnormally high, it's because this race was early in the season, so at the time it would have seemed like an indicator of a potential Ferrari versus Williams fight for supremacy. It's just a shame that this never came to fruition. I'll give my Driver of the Day award for Best Driver to Mika Salo, because even though we didn't see much of him, he was out there tearing up the track in his Toyota, bringing home one of just 2 points that they'd score that season. An honourable mention of course goes to Michael Schumacher, because this win was his 100th podium in Formula 1. I'll give the Inouye Trophy for Worst Driver to Felipe Massa, because unfortunately I think this collision with Webber was his fault, and he really should have been able to keep the engine running too. An honourable mention here goes to Pele, who did his best to balls up the result. Get it? Drive safely guys, and thank you for 300 subscribers.